Hello, it's the Devil Joe back again with a brand new video. And today I'm doing something different from my usual shtick, because I've got a doozy of a story time. Now I know the title doesn't seem like it's gonna be all that, but trust me, it's an origin story of mine. Now we all have that one game that metaphorically saved our lives, either into the childhood days, teenage years, even adulthood. To some it might be Dark Souls, to others it might have been the Resident Evil, God of War, Halo, Doom, Guilty Gears, Street Fighter games, but in my case it was Devil May Cry. In particular the third installment. Not only did it shape who I will become in general, this goofy ass game helped me get over my biggest childhood fear that could have stuck around with me for a long time if I had not played DMC3. So I'm gonna split this video up into 3 parts. Pre-DMC3 BC to move on to DMC3 AD where I actually played the game for the first time, then the post-DMC3 AD, which kinda highlights how I changed because of this one game. With that out of the way, let's get into this crazy origin story. Our story takes place in the year of 2007, with a young 10-year-old Joe sitting at school in religion studies class, where unknown to him, the teacher will end up playing one children's cartoon that'll end up potentially traumatizing him for life. It was an Egyptian kids cartoon series retelling all the stories of the Abrahamic prophets, all the way from Adam till Muhammad, peace be upon him, using claymation. The episode that was playing was the story of Adam that involved animated designs of Satan and a few demon lackeys. And let me tell you, to a young 10-year-old kid who hasn't seen what a rough demon design even looks like, these choppy looking character designs scared the daylights right out of me as a kid, as these images were burning right into my skull and brain. Right after class, I was seeing these demons literally everywhere. I wound up coming back home that day with my parents wanting me to go to bed. So I did, once the lights were off. But here's the kicker. I had a hard time sleeping, to the point where my folks started asking me what went wrong. Then I told them about the whole thing. They did what parents would normally do. They tried calming me down with each method of reasoning in the book they knew of, to wind up giving the school a hard-ass time for even showing these clips to little children. But let me tell you, these fears wound up staying with me for a pretty long ass time. I was even sleeping with a freaking nightlight. A nightlight! Right next to me while I sleep. It was that scary. I'll tell you this, after that incident within a year's time, I wound up heading over to New York. Despite having boatloads of fun in the Big Apple as a kid, trust me, the subways in the evening literally creeped me out. Especially the feeling that out of these dark train tracks, demons are creeping up, waiting to attack and head off on a rampage. It was sending shivers down my spine. Later on, the fear was curbed. Not eliminated entirely, I was still scared shitless of anything that looked remotely like a devil. Still slept with a nightlight on. I probably stopped doing that shit when I was 13. But even then it didn't go away entirely. Fast forward to 2011, when the internet was more widespread across the world. When I was looking for new games to try out. Then I heard of this one little genre called survival horror, with this other franchise called Resident Evil, hearing so many great things about it. Plus a little series named Metal Gear Solid. I wanted to give these games a whirl back then. It was around the time the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 were the new shining. I've even seen a few people raving about a franchise named Devil May Cry. That was in a year's time of when the TGS trailer came out for the reboot. I checked out that trailer and the trailers for the other games, but I didn't think much of them. At the time I had no clue what they were or how they played. Still thinking they were horror games because the game was called Devil May Cry. I didn't even know what they were about. One thing to know about Egypt when it comes to the year 2011 is that the widespread internet ended up causing a revolution against the Mubarak government. Now, I am not going to go into full details of how that ordeal went. All what I'll let you in on is every business owner shut their shops down. I wasn't able to visit a video game store for a full 2 months. After that shenanigans was done, I head on over to the Game Valley. At this time it was the most popular game store in the country. I was looking for a couple of PS2 games, in particular Spider-Man 2 on the PS2. The one I had wasn't even working. SM2 wasn't around, but there it was staring me in the eye, Metal Gear Solid 3, right next to Devil May Cry 3. Pirated copies, of course. I mean, it's Egypt. Sabah al-full ya sahbi. Everything gets pirated and cracked. So at the back of my mind, I was like, damn, I do want to try Metal Gear, and I haven't played a horror game like ever. So I got nothing to lose. Bought both of these for 50 Egyptian pounds. At the time, this was like 2 games for 10 bucks. Or even less at the time. After going home that day, out of sheer curiosity, I tried to get that Devil May Cry disc to work. It wasn't reading for like 2 weeks. After wiping it a shit ton of times, I popped it into the PS2, and as soon as that PlayStation logo was on my grandma's TV screen, my heart was pumping like crazy out of fear and anticipation. Then the unthinkable happened. Once I saw the prologue, it didn't instantly make me into a fan. My conversion started right here, at the opening cutscene. While I was sitting there not knowing what to expect, I was already thinking, alright, this guy must be a pretty cool chap. Kicking that chair up and shit, chilling with a pizza in hand, answering the phone stylishly. I was like, alright, this guy might be the definition of cool. He even has some attitude with Baldy over here. Plus he had a desk flipped over, dodging it with a sick trick, with no fucks given, to then see this shit. Just when I thought the game was over, this bloke survived stab wounds, pulling off a Shaquille O'Neal with this dude's head, after shoving him into the wall, proceeding to play some heavy metal to later fuck these demons shit up. Now, to most people who have already played DMC3, some of you guys might have had a fuck yeah reaction. The real Dante is back after DMC2. Or holy shit, this is the coolest thing ever, which it definitely is. But to my 13-year-old self going into being 14, this shit was therapy for me. Just seeing this relatively human-looking man taking out these devils that were haunting me for so long throughout these years in my life, playing with them like they're a bunch of ragdolls, while screaming wahoo from the top of his lungs, murdering them in cold blood. 10-year-old me really needed this damn game. The unintended message was these demonic pieces of trash are nothing. They flail up easy. This one video game cinematic was more than enough to get me over them childhood fears. But my therapy session just started. Y'all guessed it, it was time to play the game. Right off the bat, I did not expect the game to be this much of a roller coaster ride. When I was learning how to play for the very first time, I was having an unadulterated blast with the combat. Despite not knowing how to pull off stylish looking moves, I didn't give a fuck. All what I knew, I was cutting up demons with a sword while shooting them up with bullets, claiming my life back from them after torturing my mind for 5 years straight. I'm actually bashing their heads in, slicing them to bits, shooting their empty carcasses into confetti. It was a blast, especially with the title putting me into this power fantasy of taking the role of the guy who is beating them to a pulp and dancing on their graves, which highlights one very underrated aspect of video games as a medium that novels, movies, and anime don't have. That being the ability to control the on-screen character. In a way, you feel exactly like you are the protagonist, moving through missions, going from cutscene to cutscene, as you see everything the protagonist had to overcome, each obstacle and the many enemies they had to battle. You're technically the one fighting these battles, which is something you can't get from watching a movie or a TV show. When you're playing these games as Dante, you are quite literally becoming him, the wacky woohoo pizza man. To tell you the truth, I wasn't 100% sold on Dante as a character from these 2 cutscenes. What ended up selling me on this character was the Cerberus cutscene. The fact that this dude was going up against a large towering devil that was as tall as a skyscraper, and the dude was cracking funny ass jokes at the demon, not taking it or any creature thrown at him seriously, treating the 3-headed beast like a little puppy. My 13-year-old self was like, holy shit, this guy's like Spider-Man with guns and swords but cooler. I played this game before picking up a Deadpool comic. These are my own experiences. The very idea that the main character was this wisecracking demon hunter who took took nothing seriously is exactly what I needed. Because experiencing this adventure as a guy who routinely laughs at the face of my childhood trauma, being the definition of cool, helped out a lot in making light of the very thing that haunted me. Despite him being half devil himself, the cutscene with Lady after the fight was the cherry on top. From that moment on, he became my absolute favorite character in any form of fiction, not just video games. Every single piece of fiction. And I've got through less than 10% of the game. That's how much aura this goober had for me. He was who I wished and still do hope to become. Because of him, I was wearing a lot more red, especially the leather jacket. Okay, not his leather jacket, but red leather jackets in general. You get my gist. Listening to a fuck ton of heavy metal music, it made me into a new man. Just going through this little amount of the game. When it came to Virgil, I absolutely hated this man. From how he was the one who let a whole bunch of demons loose. In my mind, he needed to be taken down for his crime against humanity. Hell, that hatred of mine got even stronger after that first boss fight. And cutscene too. That made me want to head on over to where he's at, in this tower, to kick his ass. Just like the main pro tag. But my first playthrough of DMC3 took me a total of 3 months. On easy automatic. I know where the comment section is going with this. This Devil Joe guy turned out to be the biggest DMC noob on the planet. To that I say,
come on, man. Cut me some slack.
Bruv, it was my first motherfucking time playing this game. I was dying to the Cerberus an embarrassing number of times on normal, and I had no clue how to pull off combos, let alone hidden tech like jump cancels or switch cancels. I thought the style meter was known as ass kicker points. Hell, I was looking up walkthroughs on YouTube from Mojo Plays just to get through the puzzles in Mission 7. I thought I had to break an ejector to get a door to open. Like, no joke, if that isn't the definition of the first time, I don't know what is. I thought S ranks at the end of the mission meant that I did the worst job ever in that mission. And most of the time, my retarded 13-year-old self thought it was a good idea to keep the PS2 at my grandma's house, and not my own. Well, fuck me, that was dumb. You can imagine how much of a pain in the ass that was for my parents, especially when I went into Bloody Palace after beating the game. The entire time I was rooting for Dante 100, scratch that, 1000% of the way, feeling the struggle that he had with his own heritage and father's legacy. Was I feeling for Virgil in that first playthrough? Fuck no. I just wanted to kick his teeth in. I only felt it after I beat the game. Which reminds me, in what I think was August of 2011, the last month of that summer, I just finished Mission 15 by some miracle. I was about to head into Mission 16. But it was time to go, so I was begging my mom to stick around for a while. So she had the bright common sense idea of, well, why not take the PS2 back home and play the game there? I thought to myself, gee, why didn't I think of that? First thing I did after going back home was plug the PS2 back into the TV to finish this entire game off. Yes, this was the one game where I had the knee-jerk reaction of I have to finish this entire game off, so I did. In 2 whole days with that Virgil battle. Just because of how difficult that fight is, even on easy automatic, it kicked my ass. After I beat him, I ended up feeling for Virgil. By the end of it all, I finally understood this man's motivation, no joke. I wound up going on a scavenger hunt for the entire series. The easiest one to find at the time was Devil May Cry 4. I beat it on my Xbox 360 before finishing DMC3, also an easy automatic. It didn't leave as much of an impact on me as DMC3 did, because of how invested I was in that game's plot and gameplay more than 4. Plus, that level design in DMC4 was not helping that game appeal to 13-year-old me, who was 14 after finishing DMC3, which was my entire summer in that year. That quickly evolved into my entire life. Devil May Cry 3 did play a crucial part in healing my childhood trauma, and then some. It changed who I'll become as a person, from how I look at video games as a whole, my taste in music, fashion sense, including overall mannerisms at times. I did mention that I really wanted to be Dante. Hell, this game even got me into watching anime, whether it was the DMC anime adaptation, or anything that had a similar concept to Devil May Cry. I wound up reading Deadpool comics, because of how similar he was to Dante, from the outskirts at least. And when everyone and their mama was playing Call of Duty games, I was still playing Devil May Cry 3 on my PlayStation 2, loving every millisecond of it. Hell, it turned me into a DMC hater. And yes, I am referring to the reboot. I wanted that shit to fail so hard, just to get a brand new Devil May Cry 5 to play as my favorite wacky woohoo pizza man. In 2012, my most anticipated game was the Devil May Cry HD collection, just to try the first game. Later on in that year, about April of the time, I was scrolling on YouTube just to find this gem of a tutorial of how to pull off hidden mechanics. Instead of putting a bulk of my focus into schoolwork, at the time I was hyper fixated on keeping it stylish in DMC3. And guess what? It made me fall in love with the game even more. And by extension the whole series. Minus Devil May Cry 2 at the time. And especially that reboot, which I have refused to touch with a 10-foot pole. I might give it a try one day, but I'll most likely pirate it to try it out. So a bulk of my gaming time, up to the brand new shining at 2013 to 2018 timeline, I was playing a fuck ton of Devil May Cry 1 and 3, with a little bit of DMC 4 here and there, while constantly looking up rumors and leaks of a potential Devil May Cry 5, if that was ever gonna be a thing. Till I was surprised to fuck that it was definitely a reality. Playing a game of Where's Dante since the initial trailer showcase skipped the fucking money shot. Hell, DMC3 is also the game where I got a part of my name from. A lot like young Nolan vs. Bruce Wayne, who ended up using his greatest fear as a symbol of him overcoming it, naming himself after that phobia. I too used the fear of devils as a part of my name, as a symbol of healing. The Joe part of my name comes from anyone in Egypt that is named Yusuf gets nicknamed Joe automatically. Right off the bat, I fucking hated it, but I ended up getting used to it in the end, so I lumped it in there. The hyphen is more of a Spider-Man reference because
don't forget the hyphen between Spider and Man.
This game made me decide to become a YouTuber and talk about this franchise, and attempting to branch out to other games. I gotta say, taking that plunge into being a YouTuber made me love this franchise all the more. And I'd like to take a moment to thank every single one of you guys for checking out the videos and subscribing to the channel and leaving comments. I truly appreciate every single one of you. Without any of you guys, this whole thing wouldn't be worth a damn. So the moral of the story here is that we all have some sort of childhood trauma. Sometimes to get past it, you gotta face it head on and have a laugh at its face. And if you truly love a game or a movie, there is absolutely no shame in enjoying it to the end of time, even if it ain't the hottest thing out there. To Itsuno and the rest of the DMC development team, Ruben Langdon, Dan Southworth, who are most likely never ever gonna come across this video. But if any of these guys are watching, I'd like to thank every single one of you for pouring all your blood, sweat, and tears into this timeless masterpiece, making sure the game mechanics are responsive and a blast to play, and for bringing these fun, larger-than-life characters to life in this well-told universe of Devil May Cry into this one title. It really means the world to me. Not only did it give me long-lasting memories of absolute joy and excitement, it also helped a 10-year-old kid who's scared to death of the supernatural laugh at its face and kill him off in whatever way looks the coolest, while dancing on their dismantled corpses. So to that, I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. I wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors. I'll be sure to check out that new game of yours, Itsuno-san. With all that being said, we come to the very end of this video. What were your guys' thoughts on this story time? And how did you get into Devil May Cry, and what video game saved your life? Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button real impact style. At 10,000 subscribers, I'll do a whole ass Dante combo video in real life, wearing this entire costume. Shoot the bell icon with an ebony and ivory bullet to get notified on whenever I upload another Devil May Cry or other action game video. This has been the Devil Joe signing out.
Looks like We're gonna be busy for a while.
Well, bring it on. I love this. This is what I live for! I'm absolutely crazy about it!